DEI. Is it a thing of the past? We'll talk about that and more. Welcome to BS Represents the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Well, good morning, Shifter. It is Monday, June the 10th, 2024, and welcome to BS Represents the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. I always have a hard time understanding what my name is. Oh, yes, Cole Johnson. And for the next 60 minutes, sit back and relax as we get you and keep you informed, enlightened, entertained, even educated. We do some educated things on the show, and spiritually fed. Now, on this program, what we will cover is financial infidelity. What the heck is that in the first place, and do you suffer from it, or have you been a victim of it? Of course, we just mentioned DEI, and is it a thing of the past, or is this going to have a mounting offensive during the upcoming election campaign of this year? And love and kindness, what is the tie between both? Because one washes the other's hand. That is on tap for the rest of the program, but right now, let's start you up. And here is what's taking place in the world today. The government rested its case against Hunter Biden in Wilmington federal court on Friday, and the defense called Naomi Biden, his daughter, to the stand. Now, her vulnerable testimony underscored the family dynamic of the trial. Biden's ex-wife has testified, as well as his former lover, who happened to be Beau's widow. On most days, First Lady Jill Biden looked on from a courtroom gallery. Now, to understand what's at stake, Hunter Biden faces 2 firearm felonies based on allegations that he lied about his drug use when he filed out a form required to purchase a revolver back in October of 2018, as well as an additional felony for illegally possessing a gun while addicted to controlled substances. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, data shows that a new COVID variant, the KP.3 variant, is rising to dominance across the United States. For the 2-week period starting May 26th and ending June the 8th, the government agency data shows that the KP.3 accounts for a quarter, or 25% of COVID cases in the U.S., and now it's the dominant variant. This knocks down the previous frontrunner, the JN.1 variant, which spread globally last winter and now makes up 22.5% of those cases. A mudslide has shut down parts of a road between Jackson, Wyoming, and the Ohio border. On Friday, the Teton Pass was shut down around 4:15 that morning, local time, after a mudslide came down at milepost 15 and breached both lanes, states a press release from the Wyoming Department of Transportation, or WYDOT. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon called the landslide catastrophic, and in a post on Facebook Saturday, said that he or the government of Wyoming will, quote, conduct an assessment to develop a long-term solution to rebuild the roadway, close quote. WYDOT geologists and engineers were on the scene Saturday to do just that. As summer approaches, reports of shark attacks are on the rise. The most recent would have to be a 25-year-old woman who was in serious condition Friday after an apparent attack off the island of Oahu in Hawaii. That same day, two shark attacks occurred off beaches in the panhandle of Florida, injuring one woman and 2 teenage girls, according to the Northwest Florida Daily News. Officials reopened the beaches in Walton County and neighboring Bay County, also in Florida, on Saturday, Both counties charged beach flags from double red, which is water close to the public, to single red and purple, and that indicates high hazard conditions and the presence of high dangerous marine life. Few words are more dreaded to hear from a doctor than learning that a tumor has been discovered. It's something that most people equate to significant illness, inconvenience, and sometimes even death. But what many don't realize is that being diagnosed with a tumor and being diagnosed with cancer aren't necessarily similar. And having a benign tumor won't automatically upend your life, says Ryan Osborne, a surgical oncologist and a director of the Osborne Head and Neck Institute of Los Angeles. Quote, in reality, any growth of cells qualifies as a tumor. And from that per that perspective, even an unusual pimple or mole qualifies, which is why doctors sometimes recommend having them checked out. Close quote. Pope Francis, who says he regularly, quote, prays, quote, Lord, give me a sense of humor, close quote, will welcome comedians from around the world to a cultural event in Italy to, quote, celebrate the beauty of humanity, close quote. Now, the Vatican said on Saturday that Whoopi Goldberg, Jimmy Fallon, Conan O'Brien, and Chris Rock will be among the more than 100 entertainers that will join him at the Vatican this coming Friday, or June 14th. The Pope, in a statement, says, quote, he recognizes the significant impact of that the art of comedy has on the world of contemporary culture, close quote. British comedian Stephen Merchant, co-writer of TV's The Office, and Italian comedian Lino Banfi will also be at the event. Mortgage rates are high, home prices are lofty, and selection is slim. There isn't much to like about the current housing market except for one small positive. More affordable homes are coming onto the market, according to real estate marketplace Realtor.com. With huge price gains ever since 2019, homes don't feel like a bargain, but Realtor.com says that the big difference, I should say, between the percentages and the percentage changes in listing price and price per square foot indicates more affordable homes are now for sale. Realtor.com's chief economist Danielle Hale says, quote, the share of inventory of smaller and more affordable homes have grown, which has helped hold down the median price even as per square foot grows further. Some much welcome news for prospective buyers, close quote. The judge in Donald Trump's Manhattan hush money case notified lawyers on both sides about a social media post alleging that one of the jurors who convicted the former president may have spoken about the verdict 2 days before it was rendered. New York State Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan's sent both to Trump's primary defense lawyer Todd Blanche and Manhattan District Attorney Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass is brief and essentially notifies them of a comment posted on the Facebook page of the New York State court system. And that comment stated, quote, today the court became aware of a comment that was posted on the Unified Court Systems public Facebook page, and which I now bring to your attention. In the comment, the user, I won't mention the name, states, quote, my cousin is a juror and says that Trump is getting evicted. Thank you, folks, for your hard work. Close quote, close quote. If true, the verdict would be rendered moot and the Trump team would be moving for a mistrial. In sports, on the ice, Sergei Bobrovsky amassed 32 saves as the Panthers scored a goal in each period on Saturday, defeating the Oilers in a shutout 3-0. That's the second consecutive series opener that the Panthers beat their opponents by the same score. They began the Eastern Conference Finals by shutting out the President's Cup champion Rangers by the same score. On the hardwood, you had a shot that was blocked, but the PJ Washington shot was blocked, that saved the game for the Celtics. And with a 105-98 victory, now they are up 2-0 in the NBA Finals. Game 3 will take place Wednesday in Dallas. Oh, and congratulations to Iga Swiatek, who won the French Open for the fourth time in 5 years. The dominance looks like it is continuing from the Polish player. And now turning our attention to weather across the country, it will be partly cloudy and 72 in Seattle. It will be mostly sunny and 77 in Minneapolis when we get to the Midwest. Partly cloudy and 66 in Chicago. Mostly sunny and 79 in St. Louis. Partly cloudy and 67 in Detroit. Getting over to the East Coast, it will be mostly sunny and 78 in Boston. It will be mostly cloudy and 78 in New York. It will be mostly sunny and 80 in Washington. Down south, there will be thunderstorms and 87 in Miami. It will be rainy and 84 in Atlanta, sunny and 85 in Memphis, partly cloudy and 91 in New Orleans. Over to the southwest, it will be a sun thunderstorm mix with a high of 94 in San Antonio, mostly sunny with a thunderstorm mix and a high of 84 in Dallas. It will be a sun thunderstorm mix with a high of 91 in Houston. And gosh, I hope Texas dries out sometime soon. In the Rockies, it will be a sun thunderstorm mix with a high of 86 in Denver. The highest spot in the country will be in the desert, 105 in Phoenix and sunny. It'll be sunny and 103 in Las Vegas. And over on the West Coast, it will be partly cloudy and 76 in Los Angeles. It'll be mostly sunny and 66. Shout out to you, E40, in the Yay area. That is it for the look of weather for today, and that now properly starts you up. Coming up later, is diversity, equity, and inclusion a thing of the past, or is there an offensive that's coming soon? And love and kindness, what tie does one have with the other? But coming up next, do you suffer from, or are you an abuser of financial infidelity? This is the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the BS3 Network. We'll be right back right after this.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets. Are you looking for something to do on your lunch break? Well, there's a show on the BS3 Network that has only 4 words to say to you.
We ready, we ready, we ready for y'all. We ready, we ready, we ready for y'all.
The Lunch Break, powered by JM&E. Live weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central.
Welcome back to the morning shift with Cole Johnson on the B3 Network. Glad that you're here with me, Shifter. It is a blessing to do this with you. It's a blessing to have you here. Oh, well, it's a blessing just to be alive. And to the Shift Nation we go. Snowman himself, man that is in charge of Snowman in the morning. He says, "Good morning, Shifter." Snowman checking in from Indianapolis, Indiana. It is good to see you, sir. And you can check him out on Snowman Multimedia. Snowman in the morning will come to you bright and early this morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. on the Central Side. Cool McCain of Monarchs of Wrestling, Eagles Elite Podcast, Play Caller Sports Talk fame. He says, "Shift Nation, it's Monday. NXT Battleground was solid." Of course, that is a WWE pay-per-view that took place last night in Las Vegas. And Boston, meaning the Celtics, they are doing as expected, which, yes, I agree. They held serve. That basically is what happened. My Mentality Brother, and of course, you can check him out, Stuck in My Mind podcast's own YSLFA. You can check him out every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so he'll have an episode today, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central on the B3 Network via Roku TV. He says, "Good morning, my brother." He says, "Good morning to everyone in the chat as well." And then, and then you got Playmaker. Morning shift. Morning shift. Yeah, morning shift. I like it. Morning. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah, man. That's cool. Morning shift. Morning shift. Thank you for that, Playmaker. You can join him and Cool McCain when they do Monarchs of Wrestling later on today, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central on Shady Sports Network YouTube channel and the Real Play Callers YouTube channel as well. That is Monarchs of Wrestling today and every Monday, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. That's on the PM side. Now, something just came across my timeline this past weekend. You know, when you hear certain things, you think it's an oxymoron. Well, this is what I thought too when I saw it. Financial infidelity. Now, when we hear infidelity, normally we think of, relational or relationship infidelity. You cheated on my wife or husband, or even sometimes to a smaller degree friends. But actually being a culprit of a cheater with your finances. On today's program, Spotlight, we'll touch on what exactly is financial infidelity, and do you either suffer from it or are you an assailant of it? Now, let's set the scene for you. All right, so you have a wife with a habit of buying and hiding expenses, hiding expensive shoes, something like that, or a purse purchase from her husband. You may have a husband with a secret online gambling addiction. You may have a partner that's racking up credit card debt for purchases the other partner has no clue about. Those three examples that I just listed, those are all examples of financial infidelity. Now, what is it at its core, you may ask? Well, if you ask Ed Combs, a financial therapist, he would say, quote, at its core, financial infidelity is a breach of trust around what you're doing or not doing with money. We are in financial infidelity. When we're in financial infidelity, we're doing it because we're either trying to protect ourselves from feeling some relational pain or from them experiencing or me evoking something inside of them that's uncomfortable, close quote. Now, Combs is past president of the Financial Therapy Association. Now, what the heck is that? Well, it's an organization of professionals who have combined expertise in therapy and financial planning. He also is the author of the Healthy Love and Money Way, and he hosts a podcast called Healthy Love and Money. Now, he goes on with to say that financial infidelity can be in violation of any type of relationship, definitely including a spousal one or a partner relationship, ones between siblings, or ones between parent and child, or ones between a child and a parent, a friend, an employer. And he says, quote, here's the real kicker, against yourself, close quote. Now, how are you being unfaithful, or how would you know that you are? When you're being unfaithful to yourself, when you're not realistic about your finances or avoid your relationship with money. And he goes on to say, quote, so we're kind of cheating on our own integrity around what we want to do or want to be doing with money, close quote. More broadly, if financial infidelity usually happens, he says, quote, when there's likely something that's happening in a relationship that makes it not safe or acceptable to be honest, transparent about what you're spending, close quote. Then he goes on to say, now, if we reject or if we even fear or we push back against criticism or shame or judgment for how we do spend, we're more than likely to either not divulge or hide what we're doing, what we spend, or even save money. He says that may mean hiding your shopping habits or purchases. But Combs says also he's had patients who has failed to pay personal or business taxes and parents who don't want to disclose their financial problems to their adult children when it comes to estate planning. Mhm. Now, in a 2021 study, the National Endowment for Financial Education, they have found that more than 2 in 5 people, their statistic is 43%, they have confessed to having committed some act of financial deception, with 85% of those individuals stating that the indiscretion affected the current or past relationship in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Now, in a more recent study by marketing solutions company Veracast, 53% of people believe hiding finances from a significant other is a bigger betrayal of trust. Combs committed financial infidelity himself back in 2017 in his marriage, and he and his wife Ann had agreed that Combs would use credit cards to establish his new therapy business. It was $10,000, which the amount was agreed upon, but building the business proved more difficult than Combs anticipated. He stated that in his own feelings of self-worth and not wanting to admit to his wife, who had a thriving business of her own, that he wasn't successful, it caused him to accumulate $30,000 in debt without even saying anything to her. He says, quote, when it came to light, she was really disappointed. She was frustrated, and she was left with more financial responsibility because her business and her practice was growing and successful, close quote. His wanting to not disappoint his wife resulted in him betraying her instead, which he said it led to some difficult conversations with her. Now, Combs said that for him and for some of his patients, there's this stacking of expectations which simply can't be met. Then, quote, we feel like we couldn't talk about it, and then we're stuck in secrecy, and that secrecy then grew into shame, and that just such difficult space to free ourselves. It's like going into a dark hole, close quote. Now, Combs and his wife sought out couples therapy to work out the problems, and Combs felt he had to hide the debt to figure out how they could repair the relationship. But since there is such a wide range of financial infidelity, there's different reasons as to why it might occur. Now, he says, for instance, a secret gambling addiction is rooted in a mental health issue, which is layered into the infidelity. He also said that there may be even cultural differences, like one spouse may feel stuck between a cultural expectation to provide support to parents and a partner who doesn't share that same obligation. A similar situation might come up like with adult children, when one parent thinks financial support is required and the other doesn't. Yet another scenario is a spouse or partner who is in a dangerous relationship and feels the need to put money aside to help them get out of that situation. Combs says, in that instance, it's not considered financial infidelity, but financial self-protection. He goes on to say, quote, the time that you can be fully honest and transparent about your finances is when there's enough relational safety, when you have a reasonable expectation that your partner can actually shift from anger to disappointment to compassion and empathy, close quote. So how does someone who has committed financial infidelity come clean? This is how he says it, quote, in an ideal world, you would have enough emotional resolve or maturity to be able to come to your partner and just say, I need to invite you into a difficult situation about our finances, or you're in a place where we can talk about something that's likely to make both of us uncomfortable. He says that sets the stage so that we're not blinding them in psychologically with the news, close quote. Combs then says that most patients have told him that they want to be able to talk to their partner in a safe space, an accountable and a respectable way as well, because they don't want to do anything regrettable or say something regrettable. Now, for the party that's agreed, what's the advice for them? Well, Combs says often the infidelity is discovered by a partner or an employer or a friend because some type of documentation or other evidence seems to come to light. Likely that person was going to probably have some emotional baggage heaped upon them, and they might go numb. He said that there should be the acknowledgement that you're hurt and you're caught off guard. So some people who receive that news of infidelity react by journaling or reading or talking to a therapist or even mindful practices. He says, quote, there's a time to be honest with yourself about what's going on, because your partner may not be in a place where they are ready to be honest with you, which really compounds the exposure of financial infidelity, close quote. But he says a financial therapist can be a neutral third of, or I should say a potent neutral third party. But he goes on to say, look, quote, we can't stay in the same space of suspending any judgment about any one person about what they've done. And we could bring curiosity and compassion and empathy to all parties involved to try to help them come back to and around what it means to have this money between us, and how do we find some place of safety and acceptance, close quote. Well, the only way to counteract that, of course, is to be truthful with your finances, especially if you're sharing your life with somebody else, or if you have an agreement with your partner as to how you all spend your money, whether it is together or separate. But ground rules have to be established and set before all of that takes place. And that is today's program spotlight. Now, if you want to hear something similar along those lines, I know this show doesn't take place tonight, but when I thought about this topic, I thought about these two in particular. Yes, that's Latoya, the therapist, and Eric Butler Sr. They are the two that are in charge of perspective. And they will talk about relationship or relational topics. Anything that ranges from parent-child, sibling, friend to friend, husband, wife, any type of relational thought process. This is what they do. They specialize in having these topics, and one is a specialized counselor to do it. Join them on Perspective. That's live every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central on Roku TV via BS3, the YouTube channel that is BS3 Network, and the BS3 Network Facebook page. That is Perspective live Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central on Roku TV. Just hit the BS3 logo on the Roku TV app, BS3 Live, BS3TVLive.com, the BS3 YouTube channel, and the BS3 Facebook page. That's Perspective. Live every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central. Coming up next, DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is this the end, or is this the end of the beginning? You're watching the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the BS3 Network. We'll be right back right after this.
there's a 100% chance of a laugh thunderstorm. Four men with different viewpoints take a movie, show, or documentary and review it uncensored, unfiltered, uncompromised, with no holds barred. Join BS3, Wilkes, King Doc, and H-Rap B as they take on Hollywood their own way. BS3 Network proudly presents The Forecast, where H-Rap B always predicts,
if I owe you something, I ain't got it. And if you need it, get it from God.
live every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
So, sit back, tune in, tell a friend. This Dope Cooking Show, we about to get started, and it's about to go down. Check me out.
Join your culinary master of ceremonies, Chef Jeff, as he introduces to you This Dope Cooking Show. Live every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central.
Well, welcome back to the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the BS3 Network. And if you want to tune into something tonight, join my boys BS3, Mayhem, or Wilkes, King Doc, and H-Rap B, and as they will break down a documentary, a movie, or TV show that they may have binged watched. That's the forecast. You can catch them every Monday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central on Roku TV via BS3, the Facebook channel, the _ forecast, and the BS3 Network YouTube channel. Tonight, they will end their 5-part series on OJ Made in America, and they will have the special guest of Al High of the Casual Highlight to join them, because I think, if I understand, that was a recommendation for them to review it. That's the forecast, live Monday, and that is going to be tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central on Roku TV. You can hit the BS3 logo on the Roku TV app, bs3tvlive.com, the BS3 Network YouTube channel, the BS3 Network Facebook page, and the _ forecast YouTube channel. Now, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Whenever you hear that, a lot of people seem to have their feathers ruffled. And for some, they just simply want to do away with it. For others, they think that this is going to be a scarlet letter on the current society. And when we think of 2024 and 2025, we'll be thinking about the era that wiped away something called DEI to the detriment of society. That's how some think. The others think the opposite. In today's cover story, we'll touch on why colleges want to get rid of it and why states do as well. And is it a policy that's past its time, or is it something that we need to have in place? Now, of course, if we're talking about things political, obviously what's taking a whole lot of time is Donald Trump and Hunter Biden and their prospective court cases. That seems to be running the headlines. But there's something that probably deserves all of our attention, maybe just a little bit more than that. And it is that continued anti-Semitic and probably even increasingly violent incidents that seem to be popping off on U.S. campuses and started ever since April and has swelled in May. And it's continued even to this month. Last week, there was a mob of pro-Palestinian protesters at Stanford, and they barricaded themselves inside the school's president's office. Now, that said occupation led to the injury of a police officer and extensive damage to the building. Now, there have been similar behavior that has wreaked all over the place in the country, and of course, this is stemming from the Israel-Hamas conflict over in Israel, and Israel's subsequent and ongoing retaliation in defense of her land. Now, it's worth questioning whether the motivation is right or wrong between so many of those who are college students, and what is motivating them to probably embrace something that is considered anti-Semitic, which sort of is damaging because it earns praises of actual terrorists. One of the common denominators seems to be the ideology of DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it has become increasingly entrenched in higher education. These protesters seem to be getting more and more violent and more contentious on U.S. campuses. It seems to be shedding light on DEI. Now, there's been some state legislators and governors that are pushing back against the statute, and some universities are even revisiting policies on their own accord. Now, there was an op-ed that was written by the president and 3 faculty at one Michigan public university, and they admitted diversity, equity, and inclusion programs seem to not really live up to the potential that was promised or the hype that was engendered. And it may have directly contributed to what they're seeing on their campus today, which is something that they don't want to see. President of Oakland University, Ora Peskovich, she wrote, along with her faculty leaders, quote, "Conceptions of DEI that prioritize some identities over others end up in promoting simplistic and sometimes harmful approaches to complex social problems. Such identity-based accounts of diversity attempts to divide people into binary categories of racist versus anti-racist, white versus non-white, oppressor versus oppressed, or colonizer versus colonized," close quote. Now, while there is truth to some of that, while they would rather mend not end the DEI, as the president said, what the university leader describes, it gets to the heart of what is happening on the campuses. Now, to those who have paid close attention to DEI's growth to the school or the schools, the anti-Israel sentiments on U.S. campuses, it's not really all that shocking. Now, the senior fellow at the Arizona-based Goldwater Institute, Timothy Manella, he says that anti-Semitism on display is directly correlated to the adoption of the flawed diversity agenda. And he goes on to say, quote, "Especially the recent encampments at several prominent universities, to me, they demonstrate the logical end point of this ideology that divides the world into oppressed and the oppressors." And I think that we see that play out in these anti-Israel protests, where through this very flawed analysis, Jews become oppressors and they are allegedly in close proximity to so-called whiteness, close quote. Now you have Manila and the Goldwater Institute They are helping lead the rollback of DEI at the state level of Arizona. And seemingly they're getting results. Now, since last year, 85 bills combating DEI have been introduced, according to the Chronicle of Higher Education. So far, 14 of them have become law, and many others are close to becoming law. These bills target DEI in different ways, like from seeking to eliminate the programs and departments altogether, to specifically banning diversity statements in hiring and admissions and required courses and instruction. Now, of course, leading the way stateswide would be Texas and Florida. They are the largest states to lead the charge in these programs being eradicated. But there are other states which are doing the same, including North Carolina, North Dakota, Idaho, Iowa, Utah, Wyoming, and Alabama. Some universities are opting to drop DEI altogether on their own accord. For example, Howard University's Faculty of Arts and Sciences announced that they won't require diversity, inclusion, and belonging statements for faculty hiring. Similarly, last month, the MIT, or Massachusetts Institute of Technology, said that it would end the policy entirely themselves. Now, if you think about free speech, that's progress for it. Compelling future faculty or students to profess adherence to a set of controversial beliefs, well, that goes against the very nature of higher education. Now, that's true of DEI policies in general, as they prioritize groups and not individuals. Manella goes on to say, quote, "I think forcing people into these boxes is antithetical to what higher education is supposed to be about, which is the free exchange of ideas. I do think it's harmful to the educational purpose of universities," close quote. Now, as the rise of campus anti-Semitism has demonstrated, the sooner U.S. universities can extricate themselves or divorce or separate themselves from this dangerous bureaucracy, the better. Much of that is true, but the problem, though, comes here. You're dealing with a country who has dealt with a lot of issues when it comes to diversity or lack thereof, or having combative issues with diversity. And you have a country that's struggling to want to level the playing field, and they have no clue, no idea, and no understanding as to how to do that. And so when you have that issue and you have that problem, and you have people who represent bodies and constituents who are saying, look, we have been historically oppressed, and to certain degrees they're being oppressed now, do something about it. And that's why you have DEI. Now, can the program go overboard? Probably. But it depends on what you're talking about, where it is, and how it's being instituted. But in the end, fairness and equity has to take place. And unfortunately, we are in a country where neither of those things come naturally. And that concludes today's cover story. Coming up next, love and kindness. How do they interact with each other? And can you be kind and not love? And can you love without kindness? This is the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. We'll be right back right after this on the B Street Network.
The moderator.
As woman, you can't be too friendly, because the minute you're friendly, then they think you flirting.
The level head.
I think so that thing is over. So I'm not looking at men like that anymore.
The truth slayer.
Okay, what in the HPV yeast infection is going on over here?
The X factor.
So I'd rather you tell me everything up front and let's start fresh.
The intersection of life and spirituality never sounded this good. BS3 Network proudly presents Life Happens live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Cool McCain.
You thought you wanted Gunther against Chad Gable, but you didn't. And I'm going to tell you why. Chad Gable would take everything that Gunther's done and bury it.
The Playmaker.
It was on site. AJ Styles walked out there seeing LA like, oh, okay, then LA Knight hopped out the car, let's go.
Break down everything in TNA, AEW, and all of the WWE programming. Join these two kings, monarchs of wrestling, live every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central on the Play Caller Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central.
And welcome back to the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Glad that you're here. Glad that you're joining me, Shifter. It is a pleasure to do this for you and with you. And I feel remiss to not say that you have to join this brother that I'm about to talk about now. My man, AJ, he's one of the best that does it. 40 years in the business of broadcasting, and he knows his sports pretty well, and he's also well endowed with all things Christ. The the former pastor and former DJ brings his talents onto the screen, and he excites you, and he knows what he's doing. The Lunch Break, powered by JM&E. Join my man AJ live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. You can catch that on Roku TV via BS3 and the Jones Media and ENT YouTube channel. That is The Lunch Break, powered by JM&E, live every weekday, including today at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central on Roku TV. You can just hit that BS3 network logo on the Roku TV app, bs3tvlive.com, or the Jones Media and ENT YouTube channel. Love and kindness. Almost makes me think of Al Green's song Love and Happiness. One day I'll probably do that shamelessly. But how important is kindness to love? I think that is a good question to ask, because it's rarely ever talked about. You probably hear it mentioned only in scripture, but you rarely ever hear about it unless, I guess, someone is aggrieved or affronted. But now we're going to talk about how important kindness is to love and why it is a strong, strong emotion in laying the way. Now, when you think of kindness and love, they actually are closely related. And they can be described as, both can be described, I should say, as an act being selfless and caring and compassionate. I mean, you can also describe kindness too as you show it through acts of love, you know, a smile, a compliment, or a deed that you don't expect anything in return. When you have those acts, that can make a world a happier place. But how important is kindness and love? Well, when you turn into the Bible, it says quite frankly and quite plainly, it is extremely important. Paul, when he was just in his mode of writing letters, he wrote one to the people of Corinth, and in his first letter to them, in the 13th chapter, he talks about the hymn to love, where he basically walks through the process of what love is about, what you should expect, and how you should conduct yourself in the throes of love of any sort and of any kind. In the 4th verse of the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians, he says, love is patient and love is kind. It doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it's not arrogant. Now, it also goes on, but I'm not going to go further because it's about the kindness part of it. Now, kindness can boost feelings of confidence with the person that you're doing the act for and the person who's doing the act, of happiness and of optimism. It also can encourage others to repeat those good deeds they've experienced, which can contribute to a more positive community, which really that is what God wants us to do all along. Now, why must love be patient? That's a really good question. Love must be patient because we got to think about when we are in the mode of understanding what Jesus did for us, how he sacrificed for before he died as a human, before then, how he took on pains, he took on being spat upon and being starved and being and being dehydrated. He took on the abuse that none of us could handle by ourselves. I would dare say it took on abuse that I don't think maybe even a stadium full of people could handle combined. That's love. And he saw the end from the beginning. He knew that he had to suffer this in order for us to experience what we're experiencing now. That's also patient. And love has to be patient because love goes beyond what we see in the here and now. Love is what we see in the here and now, but love also is the commitment that you make to somebody or something, but definitely somebody, that you're willing to go through the fire with them and you're willing to go through the fire for them no matter what, so that you can see the betterment of that human being. Now, what is that correlation between love and kindness? Well, it's simple. If you do something out of a kind behavior, I'm not saying a nice behavior because that's a difference. It's a difference between being nice and being kind. You can be nice and not loving. And just think about a coworker that you don't particularly like, but you're being cordial to him or her. You're being nice. Now, if you were to have a conversation with that said coworker and you exchange how things are with you away from work and you're leaning on the other for support, that's the kindness. And the correlation between them is that the act supports both. The acts of love supports kindness. The acts of kindness supports love. And you can't have one unless you have the other join it. Yes, you can say, yeah, I love you, but I don't like you to somebody. But if you say that you love somebody, that means that you're willing to do an act of kindness for them, whether you like them or not. Which means that love and kindness goes beyond your feelings. I mean, that's the best way I could put it. Now, what happens when people mistake love for arrogance? You know, like you're doing something for a response. You're doing something for platitudes. You're doing something for attaboys. You're doing something for someone to say, yeah, look at that. Yeah, who rocked her finger? Me. You know who put her in that trip? Me. You know who bought her that dress? Me. That's when somebody mistakes love for arrogance. Because that when you hear me say that, you don't think that person's loving, do you? I didn't think so. I don't either. And so if you do something arrogantly, but you do it in the name of love, then no, that's not what love is about, because that's not kindness. That's narcissism. You know, I got at this stuff because I'm the man. No, that's narcissism. That's arrogance. Then and it has no place in love. It just doesn't. Now, when you think about the earth, and I love the scripture, set your sights on things in heaven, not things on the earth. When you think of kindness on the earthly realm, you think it's a weakness. Many people do, because you got many who just simply are weak and they're scared and they don't want to show of themselves to somebody. They don't want to sacrifice themselves to someone or show that they have emotion to someone. So what do? They guard, and they intensely guard at that. But when you actually show like that, when you show love, it actually is showing a strength. And why is it? Because you have the propensity to have that person pass that strength and pass that kindness and pass that love along to somebody else. Love is the most powerful emotion on the planet, and it's the most revolutionary one, because it has the power to change an enemy into a friend if you let it and allow it. And how do you get there? You get there through being kind and generous to everyone you see. It's just that simple, that plain, and I can't say it any plainer or better than that. So be kind to yourself and be kind to one another. Your love depends on their life. And that's all the time I have. Thank you so much, Shifter, for joining me. I'm so glad that you're here, and I wish you nothing but blessings for the rest of your day. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the comments to Shift Nation. And thank you for the comments when you watch the repeat of this. And thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch everything that comes from the Morning Shift YouTube channel. That's the BS3 Morning Shift Cole Johnson YouTube channel. For all of us here at the BS3 Network and the Morning Shift, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as I always do, if you lack commitment, you will never start. If you lack consistency, you'll never finish. And if you lack love, you most certainly will never conquer. Until we meet again in 23 hours, have a great rest of your day, Shifter. God bless you.